Awesome.
All right. Let's see. Where did I send
Do you
it?
need a refill, by the way, Jeff?
No, I'm still good.
Okay.
You know, I don't want to be like burping into the mic or anything.
Yeah, I'm
Blow his ear
inside right now, I'll be honest.
I want to blow his ears out.
All right. Well, let's begin actually, Jeff, with something that you're an expert in, which is concussions.
Yeah, I guess that would make, athletic trainers somewhat of experts. It's a weird position being an athletic trainer, especially in today's world of how big concussions are and
Right.
how the treatment for them, the detection of them has changed in a very relatively short time frame, especially in the medical world. As you guys know, it's, sometimes things take months and years, and sometimes things take overnight. And
It's true.
being an athletic trainer, you see the concussions right away. For a lot of the doctors that deal with this a lot, they don't see the actual injury all the time, and they don't see the initial reaction of the athlete. When you have an athlete that's knocked out cold on a football field, it's a totally different mindset and a totally different reaction that you have. You're like, oh my God, what just happened? How do I treat this kid? Well, you go to your training, and now training's even different. It's evolved over just from when I was in school to when you're in school now. And
Right.
we were talking about this earlier. Some things that were, the gold standard and detection and treatment and everything are kind of not the gold standard anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
So you were saying there's been a decline. You guys think there's been a decline in taking care of
No,
concussions?
not a
necessar-
decline. Actually, hopefully, an
More
advancement
awareness.
and a better awareness of everything.
Yeah.
Oh, I
because
see, I
what
see.
what we were discussing and what Jeff was very interested in, because I'm currently in school right now, is how am I being taught in concussions and what am I being taught to do? And right now the standards are typically impact tests for a baseline for what I've been taught, and also the SCAT-5 test to rule out or rule in a concussion on field and what have you.
And we're not going to knock these tests because they do hold water in these tests. But there's tests that are just, in my opinion, and in a lot of athletic trainers' opinion, there's tests that are a little bit better, and the detection is better, and then you could actually have a better treatment and eventually have a better outcome.
So when you guys say test, do you mean that when an athlete has been hit in the head clearly during a competition, you would perform this test as soon as
on-field
this
test.
happened?
So on-field tests, sideline tests, however you want to word it. In the past, it was a big thing with the questionnaire, and it was very subjective. There was some physical tests that you did, but a lot of it was based off of subjective things. And let's be honest, athletes never want to be hurt.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So they will lie to your face. There are some things you could do that you just can't lie. But now it's more objective than subjective, and there's physical proof, like you can't do this because this is affected, or you're getting these symptoms because you have an injury. And it's actually giving the athletic trainers a lot of ground to be like, your athlete is not playing because they performed blah blah blah, and this is why they can't play.
Right.
And it's giving the athletic trainers something to stand on, and which for a long time we didn't have. We're in the medical field. The ATs are a relatively young profession.
Right.
Not many, there's a lot of professionals out there that just don't know who we are and don't understand what we do. There's so many times you tell a doctor, oh, I'm an athletic trainer. They'll instantly be like, oh, so, you train people in the gym, you're a personal trainer?
Right.
Right.
They have a certification. I have a state license, the same that you have a state license.
Wow.
We both had to, file that paperwork. We both had to take a licensing test. And because it's relatively new in the medical world, there's some doctors out there that don't hold us in high regards. But then there's others that, you say XYZ and they're going to be like, yes, that's what it is. And it's an education thing.
Right.
And with the concussion world, that's the biggest thing, is how much better the education has gotten with all these new studies and testing.
And like you said, the ATs is a very new profession in itself. Concussions and the diagnostics for concussions is a pretty new topic as well in terms of medicine as well. I think that over the past like 20 years, we've really had a huge exponential growth on the research for it, and as well as the testing for it as well.
Absolutely.
And
the treatment.
Yeah.
The treatment is totally
Well, I know. I mean, I remember the Will Smith movie. I'm sure you guys are well aware. Years ago, the NFL kept denying that their athletes had these traumatic injuries.
What they call it? They say they just got their bell wrong or something.
Yeah.
Right.
And it turned into a whole movie with Will Smith, and I don't even remember the name of the doctor in the movie, but
I forgot his name.
Yeah, same.
Well. But no.
So you guys are saying that it has gotten better in terms of your profession becoming legitimized over the years.
Absolutely.
Most certainly. And since I'm in the rehab world and I'm in an outpatient physical therapy practice, I talk with vast populations in the community, at least in Scotch Plains and in that whole Union County area right there. So I see parents, I see kids, I see athletes, I see grandmas and grandpas and stuff like that. And it's amazing to me that when I get into conversations with these people, they all, not all of them necessarily, but a gross majority of them all kind of ask me, hey, what's happening with concussions nowadays? So I've heard that from the elderly. I've heard that from parents. I've heard that from kids as well, where they've always asked me, hey, what type of treatments do you guys do for concussions? And what can be done for concussions and what have you? So I think that the whole awareness for it, at least in the general population, has increased at the very least. And absolutely, I believe that the medicine community or excuse me, the medical community has all increased their awareness and their understanding of concussions as well. So I think that it's just getting better and better and better. Right. There is still a lot of fallacies out there and a lot of things that people are making assumptions on for concussions, obviously. But
what do you think the biggest fallacy is that people have about concussions?
No one should ever play football.
I was actually just going to bring that up.
If I have helmets kids, do not work to save you from a concussion. So no matter what the science
they will play football. Just putting that out there.
That's great. I think that head injuries are just it can happen. It doesn't matter what the sport is.
You don't even need a direct blow to the head to have a concussion. That is also a large thing that, he wasn't hitting the head or she wasn't hitting the head. You can't have a concussion. No, you still can.
Do you see that a lot, Jeff, with maybe somebody who got in a car crash or something?
Absolutely.
Like that too?
I see with car crashes and stuff like that. But
is it the whiplash basically that's shaking the body?
Absolutely. Yeah. So to be honest, like I would see it in soccer when you have two guys going up for a ball and neither one make contact with the ball with their head, but they hit each other and the hitting on the ground, and it's that whiplash reaction. That has caused many concussions over my career. What I've watched, and I'm like, they're like, but he was never hitting the head. Okay, congratulations, he was never hitting the head. But did you see when he got hit in the chest, his head cocked all the way forward and then all the way back, and then he slammed on the ground? That's going to be a lot of jarring in your head because one of the biggest things that people forget is your brain isn't necessarily like fully attached inside the skull.
Right.
It has
it's like floating.
It's funny how you bring that up. How it was brought to me was you take a glass of water and you put ice inside of that glass right there and you shake the glass just like this. What's going to happen to the ice?
It's going to move around.
It's going to move around. It's going to hit the sides of the glass, right? No matter what happens.
Right.
So that's basically kind of how a concussion works in the sense where, you may not even hit the head, but if that body shakes back and forth, the actual brain is going to move back and forth inside of that fluid.
That's a good analogy.
And go back and forth against the side of the glass the same exact way. Yeah. So, like I said before, helmets aren't necessarily going to help. No. Mouthpieces aren't going to help. Strengthening up your jaw isn't necessarily going to help, or strengthening up your neck isn't necessarily going to help. There's been some research that. You're right. There's been some research that might suggest that it can help in the long run. The fact that you're keeping a more rigid posture and what have you through the neck and making sure everything's in alignment there is going to possibly help. Yeah. But if you get hit hard enough and it shakes, there's almost nothing you can do to actually protect yourself from a concussion. So
we're not all going to wear halos around when we play a sport.
Right, exactly. And the same thing when you walk outside too. If you just take a trip, unfortunately, you could still get a concussion just that way, just like that.
I've had plenty of teachers over the years, come up to me and be like, "Hey, my head kind of bothers me." "Oh, why?" "I was putting books away and one fell." "Well, you're not playing a sport, are you?" "No, you're doing your job and you got hit." Like, accidents happen. It's an injury that it's scary because it's your brain, right? And you need your brain, obviously. But you treat it as an injury. You do the proper steps, proper procedures, and those steps have changed drastically in a very short amount of time. Where in the past, it used to be throw the kid in a dark room, isolation, no sleeping, all that stuff. Yeah, that's not necessarily good anymore because that's been proven that it affects their mental state as well. Right. So the active recovery now, but what I'm saying is concussions can happen from anywhere. It's not just in sports.
Right.
And it's not just in the high contact sports like football that everyone is, terrified of. When this may be a little controversial here, but women's soccer has been shown that that's rising in the numbers of concussions. Mm. So what now? You're going to tell people, you can't play soccer.
Right.
It's all relative, and it's all how you live your lives. And if you're, understanding that you could get hurt doing anything, the fear I feel like will go away a little bit.
So you guys are both in agreement that if a parent comes to you and says, "Hey, listen, I'm not going to have my kid play football because I don't want him to get a concussion and have permanent head injury," or you guys would advise her exactly what you're saying now, that essentially the gist of it is that's one of the biggest myths is that any physical contact sport will cause a concussion, but actually it's anything in life can cause a concussion.
We're going to have a generation of bubble boys. Just walking around in bubble wrap.
Very true. And can I just say that female soccers are so much more tougher than male soccer players.
Yeah?
I said it right here, right now.
The flip-floppers?
But that being said, I think that if you want to play a sport, go ahead and play the sport. Mm-hmm. Understand the risk for each sport, obviously. Make sure that, and here's a big thing too that is very related to concussion, is make sure that your child is being taught the proper techniques for that sport as well. Because what seemed to happen a lot, at least with football, is the spearing and tackling caused a lot of concussions during that time period. And if your child is not taught the proper way to actually tackle, then they are more at risk for a concussion just based off of that. So make sure that they're getting the right training at the same time period as well.
Technique,
So to go off that, actually, there are groups out there that teach coaches at the youth level how to properly teach tackling. It's called Heads Up. They talk about concussion awareness, symptoms, and everything. They do talk about how to properly tackle. I'm not a huge fan of this man. I'm not a great fan of their team, but I do respect him a lot, is Pete Carroll and the Seahawks. When they had the Legion of Boom, they changed the game of how you tackle. He taught these guys, and these are professional athletes that have been playing a sport for, up to 20 years, and they have their habits, and he enforced that they do a more rugby style tackle, which actually takes the head out of the tackle, where in the past, you tackled with your head in front of the person's knee, and it was just barbaric.
Wow. Was that really the technique?
Yeah.
See, I've never played football at any kind of competitive level, so I didn't know that. That's insane.
Because of that padding that they had there, like the head.
They thought you were indestructible.
Exactly. So they were just like, I'm a battering ram.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to throw my body right into it. And that's honestly one of the main reasons why rugby has so much less concussions.
Yeah, and they don't have any padding. I mean, barely.
In comparison to that. So they have to protect their face. They have to protect their head and their shoulders and all that stuff. So they don't have that same stuff.
They do more of a, best way to explain it, almost like a gator roll. So they'll actually get your head and shoulder almost behind the person, wrap the knees, and roll. It actually is safer on the lower body, because you're combining both legs together and you're moving with the person all at once. And Pete Carroll, I got to give him credit. He said, I'm bringing this to the NFL, and he
Yeah.
brought it to the NFL. And like, if you look, that defense that he had when he was with Seahawks a couple years ago with Richard Sherman, all those guys, they were an unstoppable force, and they were healthy.
Yeah.
And in NFL, prior to him making these changes, you never really saw too many defensive teams make it through a whole season and be as healthy as they were.
Yeah.
And I got to give the guy credit and the whole organization credit, because they changed the game and they made it safer. And, you know, where you miss now these big hits that people love and whatever.
Yeah.
You know, you got to look at, these are human beings.
These are the health of the athlete.
Yeah, it's their mind and their brain, and they're safer, and they're actually able to have a longer career and provide for their families that they need to, and whoever else they need to provide, because they're actually able to stay on the field.
Yeah.